Well, better late than never, I suppose. Yeah, depression and motivation being a bitch aside for how long it took me to finally get this video done, 2024 as a whole was also like that. It was genuinely one of the worst years I've ever lived through, except for the list of games I played that year. 39 of them to be exact. While I sadly couldn't get around to doing my top 10 of my favorite games I first played in 2023, which forced me to cancel the yearly tradition, fuck's sake, I figured it would be good for me to discuss every game I played for the first time in the year. I am gonna keep a lot of these segments brief so that I can make this video easier for myself mentally, but also because I don't want this video to be an hour or two long, but overall, hope you enjoy the video. Halo 4. I'm gonna get the first few out of the way real quick, only by the fact that I haven't played all too much of them yet to fully grasp an opinion yet, but based on what I played of Halo 4, I am liking what I have played so far from the first mission. Controls are very responsive, and it feels pretty good to play. Map design is pretty neat, and the presentation as well is awesome. This is honestly, in my opinion, one of the best looking games in the franchise. Both the in-game graphics and especially the opening cinematic alone proves as such. And this game was made in 2012 for the Xbox 360. The two other games that made me impressed with the game's cinematic opening cutscenes before I played Halo 4 were Sonic Unleashed and Drakengard 3. I'll fully admit I only got as far as after the first cutscene in Mission 2, but I really like the premise of how the campaign is going so far, especially with how the game presents a dynamic bond of both Master Chief and Cortana. I definitely want to try to get more into this game sometime, but considering I don't own a copy of the game myself yet, since I was only able to play it through another family member's Xbox 360, I'll definitely wait a bit. Ghost Simulator 3. For what I played of it so far, this game is up there in the most batshit games I've ever played. The Goat Simulator series is known for being one of the wackiest franchises in video game history, and the third game definitely carries over that charm by creating chaos, mass destruction, and just all around being an insane wacky goat that looks like they're tripping balls. I've only played this at a friend's house for a short period of time, just like the next game I'm going to talk about, but from what I played of it, yeah, Goat Simulator 3 was pretty neat. No More Heroes 3. I definitely want to try to get my own copy of the game on the Switch sometime soon, but I kind of enjoyed what I played in No More Heroes 3 so far. The combat is very good and very reminiscent of the combat flow from the first game, and the story with Fu and his alien buddies coming down to fight Travis and meet intergalactic rankings is a very cool differentiation from who were in the rankings in the first couple games. 3 does get some returning bosses from the first 2 games as well, so that is also very awesome. I haven't played all too much of the game, with the first I got beating the first boss fight in the game, Mr. Black Hole, and getting to the cutscene afterwards, so I haven't got the chance to explore the overworld of Stand and Destroy and do the jobs yet. Not looking forward to those, given how mixed I was on the job system in No More Heroes 1 and 2, but either way, once I get my own copy in the near future, hopefully these are an improvement. My Sims. I actually completely forgot I first played this game in 2024 up until much later after I finished the script for this video. Both My Sims and My Sims Kingdom ended up getting ports on modern day systems, but I've only played My Sims. At least up until I finished the tutorial. I don't know why that is, but I actually don't have an opinion on this game, other than the fact I do think it's shaping up to be a pretty decent life sim game. I'll play more of it because I think the customization is really cool, art style is beautiful, and everything about it looks really nice, but that's about the extent of my Sims experience thus far. Kingdom Hearts Birth by Sleep. I think the fact that this is potentially my new favorite entry in the series says a lot, though at the same time I guess it does not, since my former favorite was Rechain of Memories, but I digress. Birth by Sleep has a lot of my favorite elements in the series from the games I played thus far. Very fun and fluid combat with tight and responsive controls, a very impactful plot that's super relevant to the entire story, especially since it is one of the prologue stories in the series. The music is some of the best in the series, with Birth by Sleep possibly having my favorite soundtrack in the entire franchise. Everything about it so far is just so enjoyable. I haven't really encountered one thing about this game I don't like yet. The characters as well are so well written, with the big three of the game being main highlights. They are also fleshed out with very good chemistry, especially with Terra, Aqua, and Ventus towards the Disney characters, and we even get to see the characters who would end up being nobodies and members of Organization 13. It's really sad to see what ended up happening to the three at the end of their journey, but at least they all gained a happy ending at the end of Kingdom Hearts 3. God, I need to play more Kingdom Hearts. Final Fantasy XV Windows Edition. When it comes to games that truly test the game's graphical capabilities, 2016's Final Fantasy XV certainly proves that to be the case. This is alongside one of the best looking Final Fantasy games with gorgeously atmospheric landscapes, a wide open field to explore and drive the car all the way to where we need to go. The combat flows and feels so fucking good, what with it doing a really good job at working together as a team. The gameplay is great. I'll fully admit I haven't gotten far into the story yet. At most, I think I'm only 2 hours in, but so far it's a good story, though I have heard that the story does get worse and worse. But I've played Final Fantasy games with bad stories and actually like them, so I ain't skeptical about how I'd personally feel about 15 yet. The music's very good as well, composed by the lovely Yoko Shimomura, having my favorite soundtrack in the entire series. I did uninstall the game from my Steam a little bit afterwards, and that's because of one flaw, though it's not actually the game's fault, believe it or not. I play this game on a potato of a laptop, so loading times on my laptop are a fucking nightmare to sit through. You thought Sonic 06's loading times were bad? Well, my laptop's FF15 load times will end up wishing you married and committed yourself to Sonic 06's load times. Castlevania 64. Oh boy, I give it a slightly easier time in my criticisms towards it since 3D was still new to the franchise, but from what I played of it so far, it does not leave me a good first impression. The game does a really bad job at teaching you how to play it. The overall level design is okay, but I'm not a fan of how slippery the controls can be, especially with trying to control the camera, and the controls are jank and wonky as all fuck. The AI is also one of the dumbest I've ever encountered in any game, as you can find some way to either follow you to make them fall off and die, or go to a location where they're trying to get you, but they can't, but they'll keep trying anyway. And honestly, I just didn't have fun with Carrie's magic abilities whatsoever. I haven't played Reinhardt yet, who uses the classic whip style for those unaware. I have heard that the other 3D N64 Castlevania game, Legacy of Darkness, is a better version of Castlevania 64, so I might give it a shot one of these days. Maybe. DMC Devil May Cry. After playing the 5 of the mainline Devil May Cry games, I decided it's about time I play the reboot. The Weird as Hell reboot. DMC is one of two things. You either love it or you hate it, and I'm personally in a camp where I love it. Don't get me wrong, it's not perfect, but saturated lightning differentiations of the real world and the demon realm that is Limbo, while a fine concept, I think wasn't handled well, with a lot of areas being too bright in Limbo, and a lot of the lighting in the real world are dull as hell, and I'm not a fan of how Virgil's characterization was treated, making him rather boring, not really having much resemblance of OG Virgil. At least Dante, while different, had more traits and resemblances from his canon characterization intact. That said, however, there's a lot in this game I like. I like how the Sons of Sparta are Nephilim rather than Cambions, and they translate that so well into the gameplay with awesome angelic and demonic weaponry to hack and slash your way through, and using these abilities to interact with the environment and flow through the missions, making the level design the best the series has ever had in my opinion. I honestly really like this game's humor and tone. It takes itself more on a darker and edgier premise than the canon games, and I kinda like it. The cast is cool too. I like Dante, Katz, and especially Bob Barbas. The boss battles are fun as fuck, the combat all around flows so well, and pulling off combos is rewardingly satisfying, and the music is amazingly done by the lovely Combi Christ. I completely understand the hates this game gets, but honestly, there's so much that this game does right that I can't see this game as a bad reboot, nor a bad Devil May Cry game. Final Fantasy III 3D Remake. Finally got around to playing it after the infamous countdown that was my top 10 most overrated video games list in 2020. I've only got around like almost 40 minutes of it so far, so I can't form a full opinion on it yet. But I did complete the first dungeon area that the game starts off, and so far Final Fantasy III starts off fine to me. I didn't love it, but I far from hate it. The battle system may be very simplistic, but that's not a bad thing because I still like it so far for what it's accomplishing at the end of the day. Layout of the overworld and dungeons are very neat, and just overall, the game is a very sweet presentation with a great looking art style of a 3D remake, and a very classical triumphant OST, having my second favorite battle theme out of the classic FF games pre-Final Fantasy VII, with my favorite battle theme going to Final Fantasy VI. I think the story is setting itself up pretty nicely with very neat characters. I do also have a 3D remake of FF4 alongside its sequel, The After Years as well, and maybe I'll like both of them too, especially Final Fantasy IV, considering I hear it is one of the best classic Final Fantasies. Travis Strikes Again: No More Heroes. The third installment of the series, and is the most unique game that No More Heroes has. With each of the games that Travis Touchdown and Batman go through on the Death Drive Mark II, Travis Strikes Again keeps the core formula of being a hack and slash game, but each game has very unique presentation styles and several gameplay gimmicks that keeps the games fresh to play. The characters, both old and new, are just as entertaining and charming as ever. The presentation is very cool and versatile, but references to other video games and fourth wall breaks give me a good chuckle or make me have a laughing fit. The story is very funny, but also very deep and relatable with the themes of escapism, nature of reality, and impact of trauma. The soundtrack is fucking incredible, the combat is fun as all hell, the bosses are fun to fight, the amounts of t-shirt designs are actually insane with over 50 indie games, Jet Set Radio, and lots of Zelda games having shirt designs. Easily my favorite t-shirt designs in the series. I can understand why people call Travis Strikes Again repetitive or think it is incredibly mediocre, but to me, it was a great commemorative title for Grasshopper Manufacturer's 20th anniversary, and an awesome comeback to the No More Heroes series after 7 long years. All hail Suda51. Sonic Colors Ultimate. I'll grant you I didn't get this game on release, mainly for the sole reason why I didn't is because the Switch version on release had epilepsy glitches that could cause seizures, and because the only version I could have got at the time was the Switch version, I wanted to wait a while until I'm sure the game got rid of those. I don't entirely know if they did nowadays, but I bought Sonic Colors Ultimate, and while I haven't finished it, I'm liking it so far. Maybe by technicality, this shouldn't count to be mentioned since it is just a remaster of a game I first played in very late 2019, but fuck it. A remaster can have differences that can warrant a different feel in comparison to the original game, and unfortunately, while Ultimate was a good game, it's not a good remaster. Gameplay-wise is really good. I absolutely love how the remastered cutscenes look, the coins to buy cosmetics were a cool new addition to the game, and especially the new addition of the Jade Wisp that was introduced in Team Sonic Racing. But I'm not a fan of how the tail-save system was implemented. Most of the game's OST is worse than the original from 11 years before. Sonic's in-game design is just, especially with the lighting and mouth, and the load times are longer than the load times in the original Sonic Colors. Again, not a bad game, but it is not a good remaster and not one of my favorite modern Sonic entries. Unlike the original. BlazBlue Continuum Shift Extend. I got into BlazBlue through its first game, BlazBlue Calamity Trigger, which made number 5 on my 2020 list. Then in 2023, I played BlazBlue Cross Tag Battle, which would have made number 2 if my procrastinated ass didn't cancel the fucking 2023 list. And now we have Continuum Shift, the second game in the BlazBlue series. And from my previous experiences with this series so far, it was kind of a no-brainer that I would love Continuum Shift, but I don't give a fuck because this game still fucking rocks. With a story that so far I think is the best in the entire series, the characters are charming and endearing as ever, the combat now has 2 different combat styles being traditional and stylish, the voice acting is just as great as ever, the music is a chef's kiss, and just the overall presentation of the game is just wonderful. I definitely recommend BlazBlue Continuum Shift as anyone's first BlazBlue game. You don't even have to worry about not playing Calamity Trigger first, since Continuum Shift actually does allow the player to go through Calamity Trigger story before the events of Continuum Shift, which is really sweet for ARC systems to do, even if the pacing in the Calamity Trigger story for Continuum Shift is way too slow a lot of the time. Persona 4 Arena Ultimax. The gameplay of Persona 4 Arena Ultimax is fucking awesome, with amazing and fun as hell characters, including the new characters that were added to Ultimax like Yukari and Junpei. And fighting games tend to get really blood-pumping with multiplayer, and I remember having a multiplayer session with Piffle Neo, and it was so much fun. The music is really good as well, along with the animation, and I love how it's a sequel to Persona 4 Arena with an amazing concept of combining the Dark Hour from Persona 3 and the Midnight Channel from Persona 4, which is the most I can praise about the story because aside from some funny and badass moments, and I hate saying this about a Persona story, a franchise well known for having great stories, but my god, Ultimax's story has severe pacing issues. You don't even get into the first fucking fight of the story until the third chapter in over an hour since you start the story. And other moments, while are better, are still dragged down by moments that last far longer than they honest to God should have. And at several instances, I keep forgetting I'm even playing a fighting game because of how long the cutscenes will tend to go on for, and that really sucks. I wanted to like the story more because there are so many great concepts with an amazing premise, but the dragged out pacing ultimately drops the story from an 8 out of 10 to a 6 out of 10. Fire Emblem Fates. Despite having a lot of issues with its narrative and some annoying character writing decisions, I think Fire Emblem Fates is still a really good game. The tactical combat system does feel like a reskin of what was used in Fire Emblem Awakening, but I thought it was still really fun and addictive. While not all of the maps hit the mark, I really enjoy a good variety of them. The music is incredible, the tone the game sets off is amazing, it also knows how to really tug on your heartstrings. The cutscenes themselves are animated beautifully, the world building could have been done a lot better, but the countries of Hoshido and Nohr are really cool and beautiful presentation-wise, and this game has some of the best character designs in the entire franchise. The astral plane, where you'll spend a lot of your time resting, hanging out with your party members, doing support conversations, building and enhancing shops, gardens, etc., and even feeding Lilith food to level her up, I just like it. Fates, despite having many issues, is still quite an enjoyable game. Also, before a small group of people ask, I romance Corum with Felicia. I also romance Odin with Perry. I mean, how can I not? Drake of the 99 Dragons, specifically the Steam version. Not only is this without a doubt the worst game I've ever played in 2024, but my least favorite video game, period. At least with many of my other least favorite games, E.T., Balan Wonderworld, and Superman fucking 64, I can at least control the characters fine enough. In this case, no. I actually cannot control this game for shit for some reason. For starters, for some reason, despite this game starting off as an Xbox exclusive when it was released, the Steam port has zero controller support. How does a game that was originally released on a console cannot support console controllers for the game's PC port? What is that logic? I can play some games pretty well on keyboard and mouse, but I'm also worse on a keyboard than a controller. One of the biggest criticisms Drake of the 99 Dragons received is its unreliable and frustrating auto-aim system, where Drake's arms would often wildly flail around, targeting enemies not on screen or failing to hit visible foes due to poor hit detection, making the dual-wielding mechanic feel more gimmicky than functional. You can tell where this is going. The game also is unappealing to look at despite having a really cool early 2000s Saturday morning cartoon art style for the comic art styles. But the in-game cutscenes look often janky with barely moving lips. Chop it off with a bad voice direction and a tutorial I can't fucking beat because of the worst controls I've ever experienced in a fucking video game. F-Zero 99. The original F-Zero on the Super Nintendo was already one of my favorite Nintendo games that was released in the 90s, and probably my favorite Super Nintendo game. And F-Zero 99 does what made F-Zero great and crank it up to 100, or in this case, 99. I am disappointed it's a Nintendo Switch Online exclusive, but what I got out of it was a fun time. The races are chaotic as fuck, yet rewarding and satisfying with the content you get out of this game is astounding. Graphics are great, remastering them to super modern day art style of pixels while keeping the charm from the Super Nintendo. The music is still as awesome as ever, the game controls very well, F-Zero 99 is just an overall chaotic masterpiece of a video game and a good comeback to the F-Zero franchise after it's been left dormant as fuck since 2004 with the critically disappointing F-Zero climax. Mario Party. I haven't really played all too many Mario Party games. I used to play Super Mario Party a lot. I have a copy of Super Mario Party Jamboree that I bought on launch day. And here we have the first ever Mario Party from 1998. For the first entry in the series, and despite future games improving on several elements by decreasing the luck in RNG as an example, the game still holds pretty fucking well. The graphics are really good, the boards are iconic and really fun to play on, most of the minigames are creative and intriguing, the music is nostalgic, it's an all-around good time. That said, however, the game isn't perfect. The poison mushroom, instead of taking away dice numbers, if you get it, you skip out on a turn. Many of the minigames are slippery as fuck controls, where sometimes the losses didn't feel like it was my fault at times. I think 20 turns was far too much for the minimum turn choices, as it can get boring after a while, and some minigames can give you actual fucking physical injuries like blisters and burns, which parents filed complaints against Nintendo and had to pay $75,000 to the New York's attorney's office to provide gloves to counteract those injuries, which docks some points for me. Jak and Daxter: The Lost Frontier. This is one of those games that has exceeded my expectations because, if anything, I've had a lot of fun with Jak and Daxter: The Lost Frontier. The game that is not only considered to be the worst entry in the Jak and Daxter franchise, but the game that is considered to have killed the franchise. While this game to me isn't as great of a game as the Jak and Daxter trilogy, there's still quite a lot that I love about it. The graphics look amazing, especially since this is also a PSP title. The music is pretty underrated, the level design is sweet as fuck, I love the airship sections of the game, the controls are smooth and responsive, the Dark Daxter levels was an awesome addition to the game, and the story, while not perfect, is pretty okay. The game also has an awesome utilization on the way it handles Jak's eco powers, such as an eco construct, eco amplifier, eco shield, and an eco rocket jump as many examples. Even if this is the second and last Jak and Daxter to have not been developed by Naughty Dog, this game still has a lot of charm that to me makes it quite a fun experience. It's such a shame that Jak 4 got cancelled though. Rest in pepperoni, Jak and Daxter. Catherine Classic. Atlus is a pretty awesome company when it comes to creating great story-driven games, and Catherine continues that trend of creating quite a chillaxing yet dark narrative. I do like myself some storylines that have a sole focus on romance, and when you add that with mystery and horrific elements on top of it, it scores some more points for me. The game focuses on a mysterious meter that affects the story heavily from what dialogue choices you choose and grants you one of the game's many endings. And that's especially since the main character is going through troubles with his girlfriend and a succubus that falls in love with him, with both women named Catherine, just that one has a K and the other has a C. The gameplay itself is also really fun, with the day taking place at the bar, while at night in the Nightmare World, which is the main gameplay of Catherine, is a puzzle-based platformer where you pull or push blocks out of the way to climb up and escape the nightmares. The game utilizes all of these concepts very well, the controls feel very nice, and the music is also really good. There's a lot to love about Catherine, both the game and the women. Mainly the game. Ruby Grim Eclipse. Oh boy, this game was a slight disappointment. I really wanted to like Ruby Grim Eclipse more than I did because there is a lot I do like. I find the level design to be very fun, the graphics actually look pretty decent, the music, while taken from a show, is still a bop as it always is. A lot of the puzzles are actually not so bad, and I think the story is pretty okay all things considered, especially with the game taking place in between the events of Volume 2 and Volume 3. But everything else about Ruby Grim Eclipse fucking sucked cock. While the combat is fine enough for what it tries to accomplish, the game has very few combos to actually work with, making the combat very lacking and unpolished. The camera can fuck with you at times, the enemy waves are paced very badly with them dragging out a bit too long. Even worse on higher difficulties, if the higher the difficulty you choose, the more grim you'll get for the levels. Ruby Grim Eclipse may not be a bad game, but it is incredibly mediocre, and it sucks as well because it's a video game from one of my favorite shows of all time. Sonic Superstars. Even if I wasn't as excited for this game as I was with others, Superstars is quite a fun game. I wouldn't say it's great, but it is definitely quite a good game. Every single level in the game is all brand new. The level design itself is really fun with not a single bad level. All of the characters control very well, the music as always in a Sonic game is great to listen to, aside from one track. I really enjoy the gimmick of the Chaos Emeralds gaining new special abilities that can help you, making the special stages feel even more rewarding. The special stages themselves are probably my favorite in the franchise due to how addicting the overall gimmick of swinging, and the story is very fucking cute, with Trip being a nice new addition to the Sonic cast. I should definitely get back to finishing this game at some point. Tales of Berseria. Ever since I played my first ever game in the series back in 2021, Tales of Xillia, none of the other games in the series ever beat it in terms of being my favorite, with a couple close ones. That said, however, the fact that Tales of Berseria was able to beat it isn't really that surprising, but this game is fucking fantastic. The writing of this game is really good, having a very good balance between humorous moments and the occasional serious and dark moments. The characters are also amazing with a well done back and forth chemistry between all our fellow party members. The battle system is some of the best in the series, evolving from Mazilia, Duology, and Zisteria. The world building is also really cool. While this game doesn't have my favorite OST in the series, Hello Tales of Vesperia, the music in this game is really neat to listen to. And this game has the best side content in the series so far in my opinion, especially with the card minigame that features all of the main cast from the previous installments into this one. And it's so cool. This is truly such a Campbell Core game and I love it. Tomodachi Collection. Most people remember Tomodachi Life for the 3DS, but not a lot remember Tomodachi Collection for the DS. Understandably so, since it is a Japanese exclusive title that I managed to play on the Arc of Retro on Steam, and this turned into one of my biggest cozy games for a long while. The gameplay is chilling, music is impressive, everything about this game is fucking dope. I haven't played this game in a few months, and that's only because I was sick and tired of most of my Miis wanting to get divorced, and that shit makes me upset. Still a great game though, and coincidentally as I typed this, a brand new Tomodachi Life game was announced. That I reacted to with such an extreme reaction. Danganronpa Trigger Happy Havoc. I don't know why I've never played Danganronpa up until last year because this game so far is really fun. Like, yeah, if you're not into stories, I can't recommend this game because the gameplay is supposed to aid the player into the mystery element of the game's narrative, but that doesn't stop it from being awesome as hell. The characters are amazing with all of them having such distinguishable personality traits to make all of them likable and stand out from one another. The game's art style is glorious, the music is some of the best I've ever heard in a video game, the story is impressive and always keeps me on the edge of my seat and very disturbed the whole way through, and I love that this is one of the most tense and disturbing games I've ever played. I do need to continue playing this game because I'm up to the first murder. I'm just not at the first class trial yet, so I can't judge them unfortunately. Shin Megami Tensei Persona PSP. The pre-Persona 3 games are so interesting to me, since before they experimented more and branched the SMT label away from their titles, Persona 1 and later on with the Persona 2 duology were still maintaining every single core Shin Megami Tensei formula, which is really cool. And after finally getting around to playing the first Persona game, yeah, I didn't like it. I tolerate this game more than other games I don't like since it is the first in the Persona series, so I am wanting to be more lenient. But that doesn't mean I can be with the issues themselves. Saint Hermelin High, exploration-wise, is the worst school in the series due to everything almost looking the goddamn same. You can't save in any of the dungeons, at least in the Snow Queen route, since I haven't played the Seabic route yet, and these dungeons are 2 to 3 hours and on a time limit. So if you die, you have to do everything all over again from when you last saved. Level grinding, story segments, boss fights, it's not fun. Persona 1's version of the demon negotiation system was frustrating for me and handled very poorly, especially since you need to get them in a certain emotion to obtain spell cards to fuse and summon more personas. The random encounter rate is way too high, and apparently the OG PS1 version had the random encounter rate so low, so there's no middle ground. Aside from those, I have positives. The characters are charming and endearing, the tensity of the game is awesome, the story is very interesting, the combat isn't half bad, and the PSP soundtrack I find is not even that bad on its own since they are good music tracks, but I do think most of them are incredibly unfitting for Persona 1. But even with those positives, I found it hard to engage myself with Persona 1, especially when the negatives outweigh the positives a bit too much for my personal taste. And that's really sad because I wanted to like this game. Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown. I've been wanting to try the Prince of Persia series for a long time. You can thank Josh Scorcher for that, and thanks to someone giving me the most recent entry for Christmas, while I don't consider myself a fan yet, and while I still need to get back to this game, holy fuck, it's really fun. And I can't fucking believe I'm saying that about a modern Ubisoft title. The combat is one of the best I've ever experienced in a 2D game, the characters are really cool, especially the prince himself, the game is atmospherically beautiful, the soundtrack is a chef's kiss, just everything about this game is really good so far, and I need to get back to it once I take a hiatus from my current hyperfixations. Just wish I wasn't terrible at exploration. I swear, the amount of times I get lost was from me playing like a goddamn idiot at some points. Yes, I'm allowing you guys to say skill issue this once because I bloody deserve it. Ruby Arrowfell. Hot takes are coming, but not only do I consider Ruby Arrowfell an amazing game, but I have more fun with this than The Lost Crown. Maybe that's due to me being a Ruby fan, but remember what I said about Ruby Grim Eclipse. While Arrowfell combat-wise could be a lot better, I still have a lot of fun with it. The presentation is really great with the awesome settings surrounding the Kingdom of Atlas and the entire continent of Solitas. The music is madly underrated. I love how the animated cutscenes are the exact same as from the show itself. The level design is actually really cool, hides the collectibles pretty damn well, and makes pretty good usage of Team Ruby's abilities for combat and traversal. The story's actually decent, and I especially love the new cast of characters exclusive for this game. I got this game for Christmas in 2023 from an now ex-best friend of mine, but if anything, I'm actually grateful she gave me this since we both are huge fans of the show, and she knew I wanted to play this. Sonic Rivals. Yeah, this was not a good game. I don't think it's downright terrible, but it's just, yeah. The gameplay is fine, I'll be a bit repetitive, but I really don't like the story. The boss battles are bad, aside from Forest Fall Zone Act 1. I found the soundtrack pretty forgettable, the graphics are okay, but all around, I just didn't have a good time. I think the fact that this game pulls a Sonic Heroes and has you play every single stage and boss 4 times in the exact same ordering for every campaign is tiresome as fuck. But at least Sonic Heroes changes the level layout. Speaking of Sonic Rivals, Sonic Rivals 2. For all the problems I've had with the first game, Sonic Rivals 2 took every one of them, yet somehow made them even worse. The repetitive nature is somehow even worse, where instead of the 4 campaigns, there's 8 of them. And much like Rivals 1, you have to go through all of them in the exact same stages, and bosses in the exact same order. And since the stories work in teams of 2, the other story perspectives don't really give you much differences. Speaking of the story, this game gives you even worse brain-dead reasons for why the characters race. And after about half an hour, I got a massive headache. That said, I found the soundtrack also okay, but also forgettable. But even though the gameplay is the same as Rivals 1, my head just can't like it as much as I did with the first because of the worse nature of this game. I'm not exaggerating when I say that this is up there in some of the worst Sonic games I have ever played. But at least we are now done with the last of the games I really didn't like. The last 9 games are all that I enjoy. Mario and Luigi Brothership. While I haven't played all too much of Brothership, I'm having a pretty decent time with it so far, and a pretty good comeback for the Mario and Luigi series. The story and characters are pretty charming, the gameplay and combat system are pretty good, not to mention the game is just so pretty. The soundtrack is pretty good, though I found it slightly forgettable, but that's just me. Granted, I wish I could say more about it, but I haven't played all too much of it. Around 3 hours of it I've only played, primarily because I'm already going through so many other games at this point, and I tend to prioritize some games over others, and sadly, Mario and Luigi Brothership ain't one of them. I will probably get back around to it, so don't you worry. Punch-Out! Honestly, I am quite surprised there have not been any retro games in this video up until this point, but either way, Punch-Out is such a fun game. The soundtrack and the overall presentation are pretty nostalgic and overall just pleasant to look at, and the gameplay may look simplistic, but it's even more fun when you realize the game works on crucial timing. Finding your opening to strike and getting the timing right makes Punch-Out a very satisfying game to play. It's easily one of my favorite NES games I have ever played up there with Super Mario Bros., Metroid, Zelda 1 and 2, and Mega Man 2 and 3. Xenoblade Chronicles 2. This game is just fucking awesome. Granted, I'm not gonna say I enjoyed everything about my journey through the world of All Rest, and I'll explain why fairly shortly, but overall, holy moly. The combat is very fun, especially with the versatile and experimental nature of the blades. The gacha system for unlocking new blades is actually good. The cast of characters are fantastically written, depressing, and honestly pretty whimsical. The soundtrack is fucking heavenly, and was originally my favorite video game soundtrack, period. The story is so good and very memorable. The world building is honestly my favorite in the whole franchise, and the exploration... I am mixed on that. On one hand, there's so many areas I loved exploring all around, especially with how great this game looks. But some levels have an actually horrible sense of fucking direction. I'm not kidding when I say that this is the only Xenoblade game where I thought the navigation actually fucking sucked throughout a lot of my playthrough with this game. Sure, there is a navigator that tells you how close you are to the next part of the missions, but somehow the navigator doesn't do its job well at several points, and I got lost trying to find out where to go. It's kind of why I find this game one of the 2 hardest Xenoblade games to recommend as someone's first Xenoblade game. But overall, Xenoblade Chronicles 2 is a really fun experience, because despite some of its bullshit, it has a lot of the greatest moments I have ever experienced in not just Xenoblade, but RPGs as a whole. F-Zero X. After playing F-Zero and F-Zero 99, I decided to give F-Zero X a chance since I had Nintendo Switch Online, and this game is so much fun. Its fast-paced and exhilarating gameplay makes this blistering fun and adrenaline rushing, the track design is great, the music is fantastic, and the game looks really good. And because of all of this, F-Zero X is my second favorite F-Zero game behind F-Zero 99. It took everything I already loved about the first F-Zero game, but modernized it N64 style and made an already fun game even better in its sequel. Shin Megami Tensei Persona 2 Innocent Sin PSP. Not gonna lie, after playing a few hours of Persona 1, I was kinda skeptical of its sequel at first, despite its well-loved reception. But actually playing through it, and oh my god, Innocent Sin exceeded my expectations. The story and characters are so fun, and the story's whole shtick about rumors coming true translates very well as an awesome gimmick within the gameplay itself. The game's combat system feels much better than in Persona 1, especially with how better the negotiation system is in Innocent Sin. Thank fuck one of my biggest problems with Persona 1 was fixed. Not only that, but you can actually save in the dungeons itself. Speaking of Persona 1, I like how Persona 2 Innocent Sin isn't technically a standalone story, since while the plot is completely different, a lot of the characters from P1 are here in P2 as well. The dungeons are actually fun to go through, and the music is pretty good. Top marks for the PSP version for the Sin of Innocent. Sonic X Shadow Generations. The 2024 remaster for Sonic Generations was such a great time with really good quality of life improvements. And while I do not like some of the rewrite choices, I overall really like Ian Flynn's rewrite for Generations. The Shadow Generations half of this double feature game is an all-new game with a fantastically written story that made me cry every time I watched the final cutscene. This half uses an entirely new engine, the Hedgehog Engine 2, and it looks so pretty, especially with the details on the fur, like goddamn. The animation is some of the best in the series, the voice acting is top notch, and is probably Kirk Thornton's greatest performance as Shadow. The open zone gameplay with the white space is so fun, and is in 3D compared to Sonic Gen's white space being 2D. The remix music tracks are fantastic, the level design translates the core formula of Sonic games and the boost formula very well, the ranking system is much better than in Forces and Frontiers, aside from how easy some of the S-ranks are, and the boss fights are so much fun, with the highlights going to Metal Overlord and Memphis, Tennessee with his legendary Tilted Towers ability. I'm not sorry for that joke, by the way. The Sonic series has been going on in a fantastic direction since the release of Sonic Frontiers, and Sonic X Shadow Generations is keeping that direction up well. Nier Automata. So last year, I finally managed to play the game where 2B comes from, and it is such a fantastic game. The combat is so much fun, the overall exploration is fun, the characters are very charming and so likable. Yes, that means you too, 2B, you're my favorite character in the fucking game. The overall writing and world building is really interesting, and I am hooked on it. The music just makes me a sense of heaven, and I really like the overall saturation of the game. After the incredibly massive disappointment on my first entry into the Drakengard series, Drakengard 3, Nier Automata is a fantastic palate cleanser after the pain and suffering. Persona 3 Reload. My very first Persona game was Persona 3 Fez all the way back in November of 2020, and I love that game so much. So it makes sense that I actually teared up a bit from the announcement of Persona 3 Reload in 2023, and pre-ordered the game on Christmas for its 2024 release. This remake did not disappoint one bit. Literally almost everything about this game improved what I already loved from Fez, giving them a refresher and a new coat of paint. The story is fantastic as always, the new voice actors for the cast did a fantastic job, Tartarus is so much better to go through, the social links are very unique with every main social link conversations having actual voice acting, most of the remix tracks are so great, the new story elements added to Reload have been so enticing, emotional, and unforgettable, especially with the linked episodes for the male characters since, well, they have no social links. All of the quality of life improvements and the new stuff added to Reload makes this game, in my opinion, the best Persona 3 experience yet. Xenoblade Chronicles 3. For everything that has happened with the events of Xenoblade Chronicles 1 and 2 come full circle with Xenoblade Chronicles 3. And oh my god, they ended the trilogy off amazingly. The story is fucking fantastic. The characters are written so well. The world building is probably my favorite I have ever seen, with the amount of details from structuring and areas taken from the worlds of the Bionis and all rest just goes to show how much love and effort Monolith Soft really wanted to end this saga. Link to this video in the description. Remember earlier when I said Xenoblade 2 used to have my favorite video game soundtrack of all time? Yeah, that now goes to Xenoblade 3. This soundtrack is just beautiful, and it tells the story through the art and music to its absolute core. The exploration is so much fun, same with the combat and its experimental class system, and this game just looks so pretty. Easily the best that Xenoblade has ever looked. I could go on and on for longer, but you already get the gist. I fucking love this game so much. And now, we have one more game left to mention. Fire Emblem Three Houses. With its cool concept of choosing one of three house leaders and the first Fire Emblem game on home console since Fire Emblem Radiant Dawn for the Wii, Three Houses is a marvelous experience all around. While the story is heavily flawed by the second half with every route somehow having their own separate issues from one another, I still enjoy the overall narrative. The music is incredible to listen to, the cast of characters is so diverse and really engaging, especially with how the game handles the concept of theming and morality. The actual combat isn't really anything special, aside from choosing to go for a 3D perspective rather than a top-down perspective. But the camera sucks in that perspective, and despite it not being anything special, I find it to still be very fun and engaging. Actually exploring around the monastery and doing certain activities and building up your character's relationship towards you all the more makes this a game for me. I mean, I'm a Persona fan, so having the game be half slice of life, half combat is definitely going to be right up my alley. I finished the Silver Snow routes and I'm currently on Verdant Wind. The amount of replayability this game has is insane, and I am so glad it exists. I cannot wait for the day I finally experience everything in this game. And that is every video game I first played in 2024. I am so sorry this video came out as late as it did. A lot of shit ended up happening physically and mentally. Just everything was kicking me down these past 4 months, but I'm glad to finally finish this video and have gotten this out. That said, we are not done with this video yet, as while I have finished discussing every game here, one question remains. Which of these are my top 10 favorites? Because even though this replaces the formerly traditional favorite video games I first played of the year countdown series, I still want to slightly keep that tradition somewhat alive by giving out my 10 favorites at the end of this video. Now then, because this was in production for so many fucking months now, the placements for these games on the top 10 may not be entirely accurate now. These are from how I felt about them at the end of 2024 going into 2025. That said, I want to thank you all for being patient with me, and I really hope you enjoyed this video. I hope the 2025 ranking one of as many games as it did here for the 2024 one. I can only handle so much playthrough before my gamer brain explodes like an atomic bomb. I'm Yuzo Campbell, and without further ado, sit back, relax, and grab your favorite drink or snack, I know I do, and I will now present to you my top 10 favorite video games I first played in 2024.
友達になったり喧嘩をしたり恋をしたりこの島でミーたちはそれぞれ人間関係を築いていきます
Things are heating up! Tonight, who will win the title of champion? Who will be crowned with the winner's wreath? Whose tale of glory will resound for generations?
We're reading massive grim activity all over Solitas. What's going on?
Roger, we're on it.
And now, it's time for you to prove it.
We're ready. Licensed huntresses now, remember?
Don't you mean fresh meat?
You saved my life. Now it's my turn to save you.
I am Atherius! Rex! Hurry!
This blade he calls Pyro. Our flames hide something deeper.
What's the matter? Are you the Aegis, or aren't you?
Such a brutal, irrational world we live in. Some believe the crests, tokens of the goddess's power, are necessary to maintain order. But they're wrong, teacher. The crests are to blame.
How many of you are getting made an example of and hopes rest this time?
The lost numbers are attacking!
We have good reason to meet with them, to bring peace, and to set the world to rights.
But take a look around. Think about how many lives it's cost. Annihilator started moving!
This is bad, Noah.
Now I want to live.
Persona.
Next! Come on!
Why do you try to fight when you know it's hopeless?
In fact, I don't even really have a good reason to live. For me, or you, or anyone, just simply existing gives our lives meaning. Soon, the end will come.
We are not giving up, no matter how long it takes!
To me, this is what it means to live.